Hello everybody and welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about some old world floors that time forgot. Should be interesting, and I'm just dealing with a bit of a cold. I'm okay, but I might sound a bit different today, but just bear with me. So let's get started. Now, the first site I want to touch on is the Bath Abbey, which is in England, and there's a project which has been going on there for a few years. I think it's completed now, but it's referred to as the Footprint Project, and there have been some efforts to stabilize the floor in this abbey because they've been having some issues, and during those efforts something interesting was revealed. But this abbey now has a Gothic appearance, and we're told that this was largely constructed, I believe, in the and possibly early 1600s. But when they were engaging in the stabilization project with regards to the floor, they actually found a floor under the floor. Archaeologists were floored by the floor under the floor. And I believe that they found medieval tiles that were discovered around 2 meters below the current abbey floor level, so over 6 feet. And these tiles had not been seen in 500 years. And I've got some images, but there are some interesting tiles and they've got some patterns on them. Here's just an image of a section of this medieval floor and these tiles. And here's another image. And I believe that this particular design is a coat of arms for I think it's the Clare family. And there's another interesting tile that it's a bit hard to see, but I believe it's 3 lions, which I think is the coat of arms for the Royal Arms of England. So interesting though, and it's been uncovered, and I believe the plan is, and I believe they have reburied this, they've documented it, and they've reburied this floor. But I didn't know that the start of heraldry actually begins roughly around 1200, and I guess this coat of arms was actually also used by the Plantagenet kings. So I'm gonna have to take a look a bit more deeply into this particular reign of these kings. So yeah, so I think there has been an event that buried this abbey before it got its upgrade, and this floor was buried during that event. And I should just mention before I move on here, there was another abbey, I believe it's called Cleve Abbey, and they found some similar medieval tiles, and again the coat of arms for the Clare family. Here's a double-headed eagle, and once again the 3 lions. So just interesting stuff. And what I wanted to mention here, this is the abbey with its buried medieval floor, up to 2 meters. Less than a kilometer away you have the Royal Crescent here, and I believe it's comprised of 30 houses. And what's interesting about it is they have this floor that is a lower courtyard built below grade. Now they're saying it's to let the light in, which makes complete sense, don't get me wrong, but in light of the buried floor over here, I think that whatever these structures were in the past, they got buried and they just redesigned it into its current form. And I think they're of a Georgian architecture. So I think all of this happened after this flooding event, which is more recent. I think there was another apocalyptic event that took out what we call the Roman Empire. So I see 2 separate events here. And, there's a lot of things that seem to be buried from the 1500s. You have Bath Abbey, which I believe was, what they're saying, it was, built in the 1500s, 1600s. And then they found during the HS2 project, they're putting this high-speed rail, I believe it's throughout England, but they find Roman sites, and they found a 16th century gardens as well as this manor, and it's surrounded by a moat. And I think this was in 2020 or 2021. And the gardens were entirely unknown before, and they're remarkably well preserved. So it's just just something else that is completely, it was buried, unknown, forgotten, and just so many bricks, just so much buried. And there was even the remains of two octagonal towers, which I believe they think are associated with the gatehouse. But I think we're looking at some major event. And it's interesting to me, you also have the dissolution of the monasteries in the 1500s. So a lot of interesting things in the 1500s, but that's just my view. So that was one of the floors I wanted to look at. Now let's take a look in North America in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So let's go there. Now there is a particular bathhouse. There's several of these bathhouses in Hot Springs, the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas. And one of them is called the Ozark Bathhouse. And we are told that it was built in 1880 after a great fire. In 1878, there was a great fire that wiped out a lot of these bathhouses. And this structure, I believe, was renovated in the 1920s. So it looks completely different. But below the basement of this particular structure, they found another floor beneath the basement floor, and they're referring to it as a fossil floor, and it's tiled with these ceramic tiles. And here's a look at a portion of that fossil floor which was washed, and they found these inlaid ceramic tiles. And when they studied some of them, and again some of them were octagonal, they had the lettering on them, AE Tile Company. So they believe that stands for American Encaustic Tile Company. But this article was just talking about how they found some of these octagonal tiles with the writing manufactured by AE Tile Company recovered from beneath the Ozark bathhouse basement floor. So this company is interesting, and it was located in Zanesville, Ohio. What I think is interesting about it is that even though this company lives on in period architecture and on online auction websites, much of the ephemera documenting their production and distribution have been lost. So I'm not claiming we couldn't have built or manufactured ceramic tiles, but the dating of some of these things I still like to look into and question, because I know we've been lied to before. So I am curious about this entire industry. So that's all we're doing. We're looking at it. But speaking of that American Encaustic Tiling Company, they make an appearance in New York in the subway system. And New York was home to a lot of very elaborate, really ornate subway stations. I think a lot of them have been closed now, but at one of these subway stations, they found tiles from this company, and it's the Columbus Circle Station, 59th Street Station. And what they found was behind I believe it was a brick and tile wall, they found remnants of an exhibit from the American Encaustic Company. These tiles that were hiding for more than a century behind a wall, a brick wall. There was an article from 2010 talking about how 3 years prior, so in 2007, a plaque from 1901, that's the date we're given, resurfaced after over a century behind brick and tile. And it was just this plaque here talking about, this just being an exhibit and the product of this tile company. So just interesting thing to hide behind a brick wall. But in 2010, they found at the same station, they found another interesting mosaic behind a brick wall, behind an old subway wall, a glimpse of an even older one. So they're talking once again about this 59th Street Station, Columbus Circle, and they're just talking about that behind this brick wall you have this mosaic, and on the left you have the Uptown #1 platform on the left here. So you got people, but why did they brick all this stuff up? I don't know, interesting speculation, but just there's this beautiful ornate tile scattered throughout some of these subway stations in New York City. And I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about some of these subway stations. So I just wanted to touch upon some of these floors, these ceramic tiles. And I think that's kind of all I have for you today. But why do I look into these things from the 1800s? It's because there's a lot of things, technologies, such as types of cement that were being used in the 1800s. There was this natural cement, both in North America and in Europe, that was being used for infrastructure and buildings and some of these interesting coastal fortifications. And they were using this natural cement, which a lot of people forgot even existed, but we're told it was heavily used in the 1800s, but no public statistics were kept for the entire industry. But again, that we're told all this is from the 1800s, so it makes you question. And also there were hospitals like the Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal, which had this unique ventilation system, which they're trying to reverse engineer as we speak. So a lot of interesting technologies that have been lost and have been rediscovered, and I think we're not getting the full story with respect to a lot of this. So that's why we're looking into the 1800s as well. So I just wanted to mention that. Now, I think I'll leave it here with regards to that, but I want to give a big shout out once again to all my patrons. I really appreciate all your help and support. I thank you very much. So with that being said, until next time, take care. Bye.